In my previous life, my girlfriend's cherished soulmate was afflicted with liver cancer. Undeterred by the potential consequences, she resolved to donate a portion of her liver to her beloved. At the critical moment, I intervened, yet her cherished one ultimately succumbed to the illness. A decade later, consumed by madness, she took the life of our child, hurled my parents from a great height, and plunged a knife into my own liver. With blood streaming down her face, she maniacally laughed, demanding my life in retribution for her beloved's demise. Upon awakening in my rebirth, the very first act I undertook was to urge my girlfriend to undergo compatibility testing. 1. I heard that Xuejing has been diagnosed with liver cancer and now requires a liver transplant to survive. My girlfriend Bai Yan casually remarked while listlessly pushing her rice around in her bowl. I blinked forcefully, ensuring that I was indeed alive. I had been reborn. In my previous life, Bai Yan sat across from me, feigning indifference as she spoke of Xuejing's plight, mentioning how our classmates had voluntarily gone to get tested to see if they could save him. After all, Xuejing was an orphan, and relying on family for a match was an impossibility. At that time, I was oblivious to the fact that Xuejing was her lifelong unrequited love. My heart brimmed with affection for her. Frowning, I expressed my concern about her health, attempting to dissuade her from getting tested. She reacted with displeasure, arguing that success was not guaranteed, and we nearly quarreled over it. I failed to notice the discontent in her eyes until she secretly went to get tested and, to my shock, was a match. I stood in front of the operating room door with her parents, preventing her from proceeding. In the end, Xuejing succumbed to his illness, and Bai Yan's resentment towards me deepened. She pretended to be grateful for my timely intervention, proclaiming to everyone that she would marry no one but me. Yet, on our 10th wedding anniversary, she conspired with outsiders to sabotage my company, leading me to bankruptcy. In my most painful and helpless moments, she took the life of our 9-year-old son by her own hands. Then, before my eyes, she pushed my parents from a high building. Finally, she plunged a knife into my liver. As I bled profusely, she raved about her love for Xuejing, even laying the blame for his death squarely on my shoulders. You should die. If you hadn't stopped me, I could have saved Xuejing. Every day with you makes me feel nauseated. You are a cold-blooded demon. Her accusations rang in my ears. A single act of goodwill had elicited her vengeful wrath. The thoughts of my parents and my son stirred an insatiable hatred within me, a desire to tear the woman before me limb from limb. What's wrong, Su Wei? I'm talking to you. She feigned anger, glaring at me. In the past, I would have found her demeanor endearing. Now, it made me feel violently ill. Just having returned from my rebirth, I knew I had to tread carefully. It's nothing, I was just thinking that since Xuejing has no family, we can only rely on classmates, I suggested, masking my intentions. Let us head to the hospital to get tested. Upon saying this, I noticed the gleam of triumph in Bai Yan's eyes as she beamed at me, forming a heart shape with her hands. That's wonderful, Su Wei. You're such a good person. I silently scoffed, my heart icy. Very well, since you harbor resentment for my intervention, I shall fulfill your wish and be a good person, personally escorting you to the hospital, watching as you walk towards your own demise. 2. When Bai Yan and I arrived at the hospital, Xuejing's ward was sparsely populated. In my previous life, Bai Yan had told me that our classmates had come to get tested, yet she was the only one who succeeded. I was skeptical. Xuejing was not particularly well liked at school. It was implausible that so many would come to support him. Witnessing the scene confirmed my suspicions. The sickly handsome young man lay in bed, indeed evoking a nurturing instinct in women. Alas, I remained steadfast in my belief that those who are pitiable often harbor resentable traits. Bai Yan, with tears glistening in her eyes, conversed with Xuejing for quite some time, completely disregarding me, her rightful boyfriend. I was unwilling to let her miss the testing opportunity and hastily reminded her. Yan, let Xuejing rest well, we should hurry to get tested. Reluctantly, Bai Yan bid farewell to Xuejing, maintaining a deliberate distance from me as we exited the ward. I observed her actions with cold disdain, glancing back at Xuejing, whose eyes revealed little emotion, as if he had anticipated Bai Yan's visit. My disdain for Bai Yan intensified. Su Wei, let us go in together, she insisted at the entrance of the examination room, gripping my sleeve tightly, fearful that I might change my mind. Indeed, my blood type matched Xuejing's, theoretically increasing the likelihood of a successful match. Unable to test simultaneously, I opted for the adjacent examination room. Suppressing my revulsion, I gently stroked Bai Yen's hair before stepping into the other room. I waited until I heard her enter the adjacent room and close the door before I apologized to the doctor, claiming I needed to use the restroom. I then hastily exited the examination room. I had no intention of getting tested for Xuejing. Bai Yen would undoubtedly succeed. When Bai Yen emerged, I feigned having just exited. She noticed no discrepancies. A week later, she received a text confirming her successful match.
I matched, Suvei.
This is fantastic. I can save Xuejing. On the day she received the message, Bai Yen excitedly tugged at my arm. Perhaps because I hadn't obstructed her from getting tested in this life, she lowered her guard and immediately came to share the news. As I watched her unrestrained joy, I thought to myself how foolish this woman truly was. Regrettably, my own matching test had failed. I fabricated a message indicating a failed match to show Bai Yen. After reading it, a flicker of disappointment crossed her eyes. In her mind, it should have been preferable for as many people as possible to succeed in matching. Regrettably, she would forever be the only one to succeed. It's all right, I can save him, she reassured herself, seemingly deceived by my demeanor, even patting my shoulder in comfort. How ludicrous. Yen, are you truly prepared to donate your liver? I inquired, and her expression turned guarded. Didn't we agree on this? Are you going to stop me?
No. I.M. Marelli asking.
Such a significant matter. Shouldn't you inform your parents? No, I'll tell you, Su Wei. If you dare to tell them, I will never speak to you again. I quickly raised my hands in surrender. Rest assured, miss, I would never divulge such information. My face displayed feigned compliance, while inwardly I muttered, but you forbade me from telling them. Don't blame me later. In my previous life, I disregarded Bai Yen's threats and directly called her parents, bringing them to stop her at a critical moment. This time, since she had warned me so insistently, I would certainly refrain from such interference. I intended to personally escort her into the operating room. 3. Bai Yen hurriedly confirmed the surgery schedule with the doctor before dashing to Xuejing's ward. However, upon arrival, she found a girl sobbing in Xuejing's embrace. It's all right, I heard the matching was successful. I won't die. Xuejing gently comforted the girl in his arms. Bai Yen's face instantly drained of color while I observed the unfolding drama. In my previous life, I had known of Xuejing's childhood friend. When Xuejing died, this friend had confronted me, blaming me for stopping Bai Yen from donating her liver. She was not the delicate creature I saw before me now. Xuejing, who is she? Bai Yen demanded, her demeanor that of a rightful partner, completely disregarding my presence as her legitimate boyfriend. I felt a twinge of embarrassment on her behalf. The girl withdrew from Xuejing's embrace and smiled at Bai Yen. Are you the sister who is going to donate your liver to brother? Bai Yen, upon hearing this, lifted her chin with an air of superiority, completely oblivious to the flicker of disdain in Xuejing's eyes. What a foolish girl. I rolled my eyes inwardly, too disinterested to watch their charade any longer. I made my way to the doctor's office instead, needing to confirm something. Upon exiting the doctor's office, Bai Yen stormed towards me, her anger palpable. Where have you been? Do you have any idea how long I've been looking for you? Bai Yen shouted, completely ignoring the onlookers around us. I regarded her coldly. In her previous life, she never spared a thought for my dignity as a man. She often belittled and humiliated me in public. And only later did I realize that she merely regarded me as a vessel for her frustrations and a source of financial support. I decided to consult the doctor regarding the precautions for the surgery and to prepare some nutritional supplements for you in advance. Upon hearing my words, Bai Yen's demeanor softened. Make sure to prepare some for Xuejing as well. He is so pitiful, she said, winking at me, assuming I would still be as compliant as I was before. I smiled and nodded, but a wave of nausea washed over me. I recalled my past life, when Bai Yen used Xuejing's unfortunate background to morally blackmail me. I bore all of Xuejing's medical expenses, even financing his final funeral. Yet, Bai Yen still harbored deep resentment towards me. Given this, I would no longer be the fool. The surgery was scheduled for a month later, and I informed Bai Yen that the doctor advised her to increase her nutritional intake. Each day, I ordered rich, greasy soups for her from restaurants. Whenever she expressed reluctance to drink, I reminded her that it was prescribed by the doctor to ensure her liver was in optimal condition. Each time, she would pinch her nose and down it. I couldn't help but marvel at her apparent love for Xuejing. Over the course of the month, as I continued to feed her, Bai Yen's weight noticeably increased. Xuejing would look at her with barely concealed disdain, while Bai Yen remained lost in her dreams of love. I felt no urge to shatter her illusions. Throughout this month, in addition to preparing Bai Yan's nutritious meals, I also took the time to contact my parents, advising them to refrain from visiting Haisher for the time being. In this life, I intended to keep my parents away from that vile creature, Bai Yan. I would take matters into my own hands. Yan, if you don't inform uncle and auntie, who will sign the consent form for your surgery? On the eve of the surgery, as I fed Bai Yan the last bowl of soup, I casually inquired. Bai Yan frowned slightly. You can sign it, no matter what happens, just ensure the surgery proceeds. This foolish girl, so enamored in love, unwittingly delivered me exactly what I needed. I had consulted the hospital, and since we were merely dating, I would require her to grant me power of attorney to make decisions on her behalf. Bai Yan rather readily waved her hand dismissively. That's simple. Just sign it. Perhaps my recent compliance regarding her liver donation had lulled her into a false sense of security, allowing her to so easily relinquish control over her own fate. I gazed at the handwritten power of attorney Bai Yan had provided, a chill coursing through me. Bai Yan, this is all of your own making. You cannot blame me. On the day of the surgery, the doctor scrutinized Bai Yan's test results, his brow furrowing. These values seem off. The doctor hesitated, perplexed as to how the compatibility indicators could have changed so drastically in just a month. Bai Yan, deceived by my assurances, remained in the hospital room, oblivious to the unfolding events. Doctor, my girlfriend is adamant about donating her liver, I stated coolly. However, her current health status and values present some risks. The indicators were teetering on the edge, and the doctor hesitated, reluctant to outright refuse the liver donation, especially since Xuejing's time was running short. Just as the doctor remained indecisive, Bai Yan burst into the room, panic-stricken. Doctor, it's bad. Xuejing has collapsed. Indeed, my calculations were correct. In my previous life, Xuejing had fallen gravely ill and entered the ICU on this very day. Without a liver source, he had succumbed within 2 days. The doctor hurried to Xuejing's room, and amidst the ensuing chaos, he was swiftly wheeled into the operating room. His little childhood sweetheart stood before the surgery doors, tearfully imploring Bai Yan, Sister, weren't you going to donate your liver to brother? Why aren't you going in? The onlookers whispered and pointed at Bai Yan, questioning how she could renege on her promise to donate. Is she afraid? That is a life at stake. The rumors infiltrated Bai Yan's ears. She had been resolute in her decision to donate her liver, and now retreating would be impossible. She rushed to the surgery doors, banging on them. I want to donate my liver. Open the door. I want to donate. A nurse approached to pull her back. No noise allowed in front of the operating room. I watched Bai Yan, frenzied and desperate, feeling a coldness spread within me. She attempted to say something, but the doors to the operating room opened once more. The patient's condition is critical. Surgery must proceed immediately. The liver source must be prepared at once, the doctor declared, casting a glance at Bai Yan before sighing in resignation. Are you sure you want to donate? Yes. Doctor, I can undergo surgery immediately. I am capable. The doctor shook his head, clearly exasperated. If that's the case, family members need to sign. Nurse, prepare for the liver source surgery. He took me aside in a hurry. I've already explained her condition. If you insist on proceeding with the donation, you must sign these consent forms. The doctor hastily handed me a stack of documents. It seemed Xuejing's situation was indeed dire. I signed without hesitation. Bai Yan was soon granted her wish and taken into the operating room. I leaned against the wall, gazing at the lights above the surgery room, contemplating, Bai Yan, your retribution is imminent. Approximately half an hour later, a nurse rushed out from the operating room. Who is Bai Yan's family? I raised an eyebrow and approached. I am. Nurse, what is it? During the operation, Bai Yan experienced severe hemorrhaging. If she continues to donate, we may not be able to save her spleen. Do you wish to terminate the surgery? Nearby, Xuejing's childhood sweetheart rushed over, evidently terrified that I might utter the words to halt the procedure. I smirked slightly. My girlfriend has sacrificed immensely for this donation and is unwavering in her resolve. I believe she would not wish for me to terminate the surgery. I earnestly assured the nurse. The little sweetheart visibly relaxed. Then please sign quickly. With that, the nurse handed me another form. Without a glance, I signed my name. Another half hour passed, and the nurse emerged again. Bai Yan needs her spleen removed. Family, please come sign. I again signed my name without hesitation. Soon after, the nurse returned once more. Bai Yan is losing too much blood. Family. Hurry and sign. Bai Yan's heart and lung functions have failed. She requires a machine. Family. Bai Yan's family. Sign. Multiple times throughout the surgery, the nurse appeared, each time with dire news. Bai Yan endured severe blood loss, had her spleen removed, was placed on a ventilator, and administered potent steroids. She truly suffered greatly, yet all of this was merely the price of her own desires. The surgery was ultimately deemed successful, and both individuals would be placed in the ICU for observation. 5 hours later, the doctor emerged to announce the success of the surgery. However, aside from me, no one seemed to note that he had used the term temporarily. Bai Yan and her cherished white moonlight were taken into the ICU. I gazed at Bai Yan, pale and unconscious, finally retrieving my phone to call her parents. I had no intention of covering her medical expenses. Upon learning that their daughter was in the ICU, Bai Yan's parents hastily rushed over from a neighboring city. What happened to Yan Yan? Bai Yan's mother clutched my sleeve, her expression fierce. Her father glared at me with evident fury. I observed their reactions, and they mirrored their past selves perfectly. In my previous life, when I informed them of Bai Yan's liver donation, they had similarly placed all the blame on me, accusing me of disregarding Bai Yan's safety and forcing them to intervene, claiming I was not man enough. Subsequently, I married Bai Yan, while they squandered my money and slandered me in front of her. Even our daughter was not spared from their disdain. Contemplating this, my heart harbored nothing but contempt and animosity towards this family. Uncle and aunt. This is the authorization letter that Bai Yan wrote for me. She insisted on donating a portion of her liver to Xuejing, leaving me with no choice. You are aware of Bai Yan's character. She forbade me from informing you. As I spoke, I retrieved Bai Yan's handwritten authorization letter and a photograph of her signed surgical consent form. The evidence lay bare before the two elderly individuals. They stomped their feet in frustration. What shall we do now? With her spleen removed, what will happen next? Bai Yan's mother cried out, pacing back and forth. Who did Yan Yan donate her liver to? He took my daughter's liver, and he remains silent about it? Indeed, 2 sentences of discourse revolved around self-interest. Coincidentally, Xiao Qingmei arrived just in time to visit Xuejing. How is Sister Yan Yan? The individual who came to seek torment was swiftly seized by Bai Yan's parents. Is it you who had my daughter's spleen removed? My daughter has lost her spleen because of you. You must compensate. Xiao Qingmei trembled in fear. I relished the spectacle, yet the greater drama was yet to unfold. They needed to conserve their energy. Uncle and aunt. This is Xuejing's friend. Xuejing is also in the ICU and has not yet regained consciousness. I wonder if fate itself conspired to aid me. No sooner had I spoken than a nurse approached to announce that Xuejing had awakened and could return to the ward for observation. Bai Yan's parents rushed back to Xuejing's room, their faces etched with fury. The recently emerged patient bore a pallid complexion, drained of blood, entangled in various tubes. He gazed vacantly at the individuals before him, seemingly unacquainted with his new organ. Zui, what is this? Xuejing's eyes fell upon me. I shrugged. These are Bai Yan's parents. During the operation, she suffered significant blood loss and had her spleen removed. She is still in the ICU. I recounted this with a calm demeanor, savoring each word as it brought me a sense of satisfaction. Xuejing's eyes widened, disregarding his weakness, attempting to rise. Only I perceived the impatience lurking in his gaze. Speak. Then. My daughter has lost her spleen. How will you compensate? Bai Yan's mother was the first to voice her demand. Xuejing seemed taken aback that Bai Yan's parents would approach him for financial reparation. He opened his mouth. Then, gasping, lay back down. Xiao Qingmei observed Xuejing's condition, her eyes welling with tears. Uncle and aunt, we understand that Bai Yan has sacrificed much for Xuejing, but it was all voluntary. Nonsense. Even if our Yan Yan donates her liver, it should be to a family member. How could she possibly save a man, benefiting a little vixen like you? Bai Yan's mother berated Xiao Qingmei. The young girl, likely unaccustomed to such venomous words, turned red and pale in succession. I watched impassively. Indeed, Bai Yan's parents had long been aware of her sordid intentions towards Xuejing. In my previous life, I harbored suspicions that they knew something. After all, when they attempted to dissuade Bai Yan, their words were remarkably suspicious. Yan Yan, you foolish girl. Even if you donate your liver, how will you both survive as 2 invalids? How could I have given birth to such a naive daughter? What can he provide for you? He is, after all, an orphan. Su Wei's family is so well off and devoted to you. Have you lost your senses? How I regret that in my past life, I was solely preoccupied with worrying about Bai Yan's liver donation, neglecting to ponder the implications of her parents' words. It now appears that despite their disdain for me, they still allowed Bai Yan to marry me, likely for my advantageous circumstances. In this lifetime, even if I were to toss my money into the sea, I would never spend another cent on this family. Uncle and aunt, it is I who wronged Bai Yan. Once I am discharged, I shall care for her, tending to her for the rest of her life. Xue Jing stuttered this declaration, raising my eyebrows in surprise. Xiao Qingmei burst into tears. Bai Yan's parents scoffed dismissively. Do you think everyone is as easily deceived as my daughter? With your frail body, you expect to care for my daughter? Exactly. Do you take us for fools? Xue Jing, likely unaccustomed to such individuals as Bai Yan's parents, nearly found himself on the verge of re-entering the operating room in exasperation. At that moment, the nurse's voice echoed through the corridor. Bai Yan's family. Bai Yan has developed an infection post-surgery and requires another operation. The two elderly individuals rushed out the door. Observing this, Xue Jing surprisingly breathed a sigh of relief. I regarded Xue Jing's expression, inwardly cursing Bai Yan once more for her foolishness. Bai Yan was once again ushered into the operating room. I had long warned that Yan suffered from a blood disorder. You must take utmost care. How could you allow her to donate a liver? Bai Yan's father incessantly jabbed his finger at my nose, seemingly eager to strike me. I bowed my head, feigning remorse. The surgical consent form was signed by Bai Yan herself. The entire hospital could attest to her frantic insistence on donating her liver. This was entirely her choice. How could it be blamed on me? Bai Yan's subsequent surgery lasted over 2 hours. A further third of her remaining liver was excised. Upon hearing this, Bai Yan's mother collapsed to the hospital floor, wailing uncontrollably. You murderous hospital! How could you allow her to donate her liver? Her performance was so practiced it seemed she was no novice at all. I stood by, utterly astonished. Hospital security swiftly arrived to restore order. The two elderly individuals were escorted to a mediation room, and I followed suit as I was a crucial witness. Based on the examination results, we determined that Bai Yan met the conditions for donation, albeit with surgical risks. The lead surgeon tossed a stack of documents onto the table. These are the responsibility agreement, consent form, and surgical agreement, all signed by Bai Yan herself. Afterward, a video was played. This was footage of Bai Yan, in a state of fervor, demanding the liver donation just outside the operating room, pounding on the door, and tugging on the doctor's sleeve, frantically insisting on proceeding with the donation. It also captured her accusing me, questioning why I did not promptly contact the doctor for her surgery. Bai Yan's parents bore complex expressions as they watched the video, their intended curses swallowed back. Based on the evidence presented, it was clear that Bai Yan had insisted on the liver donation while fully conscious. The doctor spoke in a dispassionate tone, seemingly uninterested in further entanglements with Bai Yan's parents. As for Bai Yan's current condition, it fell under the category of post-surgical risks, which had also been outlined in the preoperative disclosure. Bai Yan's parents, confronted with the documents and compelling video footage, fell into silence. Naturally, we would exert every effort to save Bai Yan. Her condition had stabilized considerably. Upon hearing this, I felt a twinge of regret that Bai Yan's health had improved too swiftly. Nevertheless, the show was far from over. Bai Yan's parents could not vent their anger on the hospital and thus directed their ire towards me. However, the authorization letter was penned by Bai Yan, and the consent form was signed by her. Even if they sought to blame me, they could find no other grounds for grievance. A day later, Bai Yan finally regained consciousness. The first thing she inquired about was me. How is Xue Jing? Is he all right? I looked at the woman before me, utterly ensnared in her infatuation, and found her utterly laughable. Xue Jing is fine. No sooner had I spoken than Bai Yan's father shoved me aside. You fool! How could you agree to donate your liver? Do you not realize that your spleen has been removed? Bai Yan appeared bewildered, looking to me as if seeking an explanation. You experienced severe blood loss during the surgery. The doctor said only the spleen could be excised. At that moment, if they had halted the procedure, both you and Xue Jing would have been in jeopardy. I subtly altered the trajectory of the narrative. Upon hearing that stopping could endanger Xue Jing, Bai Yan immediately became agitated. Yes, we cannot halt. Xue Jing must not come to harm. I observed her with a detached gaze, pondering the true state of Xue Jing's well-being, which remained uncertain. Bai Yan's parents were nearly driven to despair by her demeanor. No one anticipated that, upon awakening, She would be so nonchalant about having lost a spleen. With a significant portion of her liver gone and her spleen removed, Bai Yan spent more time in bed than Xuejing. Yet, during this period, Xuejing had not made a single appearance. What arrived first was not Xuejing, but rather the hospital bills. Bed 7, Bai Yan, please settle the hospitalization fee. The nurse tossed the bill onto the bed, prompting her parents to glance at it with increasingly grim expressions. Bai Yan had utilized numerous instruments while in the operating room, and after so many days in the ICU, the medical expenses were considerably substantial. Su Wei, why haven't you settled Yan's hospitalization fees yet? This family truly lacked any sense of shame. They were audaciously expecting me to cover the costs. Uncle, Auntie, Yan, I transferred all my money to the hospital a few days ago. My card is empty. My parents are on a plane and unreachable. Could you perhaps settle it for now? I lowered my head, feigning helplessness. Bai Yan frowned but remained silent, while her parents began to protest vociferously. We have no money. If it's not possible, let Xuejing pay. You're useless. You can't even come up with this little hospitalization fee. Look at this family, so brazen in their desperation. I nearly choked on my indignation. Upon hearing her parents demand money from Xuejing, Bai Yan quickly intervened. No, Xuejing is already struggling. Indeed, this love-stricken fool seemed irredeemable. So what should we do? We don't have that much money. Bai Yan's mother huffed, taking a seat with a demeanor that suggested she was prepared to act like a petulant child. I raised an eyebrow, bemused by Bai Yan's carefree nature. How could she remain so infatuated with such parents? Just use my credit card for now, Su Wei. Hurry and ask your parents for money to pay me back. Bai Yan commanded me imperiously. I nodded silently. Just wait for my repayment of the credit card. As the considerable sum was charged, Bai Yan's hands trembled. Tremble away, your good days are yet to come. The first thing Bai Yan did upon being able to rise was rush to Xuejing's hospital room to see him. The timing was rather fortuitous. Little Qingmei was sweetly conversing with Xuejing. Bai Yan's expression darkened immediately. This woman couldn't possibly be harboring the delusion that she could win over a man with a liver, could she? When Xuejing spotted Bai Yan, his impatience was skillfully concealed. Yan, you've recovered? His performance was commendable, his tone laced with surprise. However, it was only sufficient to deceive Bai Yan. Xuejing, how are you? Are you still in pain? Bai Yan nearly leaned over the edge of Xuejing's bed, completely disregarding my presence behind her. Yet, I had grown accustomed to it, as I was merely there to observe. The doctor says I still need to adjust to this new liver. But thanks to you, Yan, I've been given a second chance. I will repay you well. Xuejing's intimate words caused Bai Yan to momentarily lose herself in bliss. Little Qingmei looked visibly displeased. However, it seemed she and Xuejing had reached a tacit understanding. As long as they dealt with Bai Yan, her parents would cease their entanglement with Xuejing. You good for nothing. What are you doing here again? They were mistaken. Bai Yan's parents would not easily let Xuejing off the hook. Since we're here, let us discuss the expenses for Yan's liver. Bai Yan's father pulled a chair over to sit beside Xuejing's bed. Bai Yan's mother yanked Bai Yan away from the edge of the bed. Still quite weak, Bai Yan nearly toppled over from the force. Yet no one in the room cared about her plight. I won't let Xuejing pay. Bai Yan shouted with all her strength. Shut up. With all your hospitalization fees and nutritional expenses, who else will pay if he doesn't? Su Wei will cover it for me. I was left flabbergasted. How could anyone be so shameless? What he gives you is his own. Bai Yan's father growled, glaring menacingly at Xuejing. Little Qingmei had already witnessed Bai Yan's parents' unscrupulousness and now clung to Xuejing's bedside in fear. Upon closer inspection, one could see their hands tightly clasped together, as if drawing strength from one another. Unfortunately, Bai Yan failed to notice. You're being utterly unreasonable. Bai Yan chose to donate her liver herself. She even said there's no need for compensation. Little Qingmei bravely countered. What she says doesn't matter. Let me tell you, if you don't pay up, I won't let you off the hook. Bai Yan's father's expression was ferocious, leaving Xuejing pale with fright. Dad, I don't want Xuejing's money. Bai Yan continued to resist. Her mother slapped her, tears welling in Bai Yan's eyes. Yet Xuejing did not even glance her way. Fine, once I'm discharged, I'll repay you slowly. Xuejing seemed short of breath, likely due to the agitation. His complexion grew ashen. However, Bai Yan's father appeared somewhat satisfied with this response. He then produced a pre-written IOU. Here is a 30,000 debt note. Once you sign it, we'll consider it settled. 30,000. Dad, are you out of your mind? Bai Yan screamed, covering her face. Without hesitation, Xue Jing snatched the note and signed his name. I raised an eyebrow, intrigued by Xue Jing. However, before I could enjoy the unfolding drama, Xue Jing clutched his chest and collapsed onto the bed. Brother! Xue Jing! The screams of little Qingmei and Bai Yan echoed simultaneously. I kindly pressed the call button for them. Soon, a flurry of doctors and nurses burst into Xue Jing's hospital room. Bai Yan's parents appeared horrified by the commotion, hurriedly muttering that he was already weak and it had nothing to do with them, before dragging Bai Yan away. Bai Yan stubbornly refused to leave, while the old folks bolted, terrified of being implicated. Xue Jing was swiftly wheeled back into the ICU. It's a post-operative complication, the doctor hurriedly announced, leaving behind the grim statement before rushing in to provide treatment. Bai Yan, pale as a ghost, crouched outside the emergency room. Little Qingmei stood defiantly before Bai Yan, seething with anger. This is all your fault. Brother is suffering because of your parents. If anything happens to him, you won't get a single penny. Bai Yan was provoked into fury, standing up and shoving little Qingmei. Who do you think you are? Xue Jing's life was saved by me. What are you even worth? If it weren't for your liver, my brother wouldn't even acknowledge you. We're meant to be together. Little Qingmei finally burst out. Bai Yan's worldview seemed to shatter in that instant. She stared at little Qingmei in a daze, muttering, impossible, impossible. How is it impossible? Brother Xue Jing despises you the most. Let me tell you, if anything happens to him, I won't spare you. Little Qingmei retorted. Donating a liver was your voluntary choice. This is extortion. After finishing, she paid no heed to Bai Yan's expression and stepped aside, anxiously watching the emergency room. I observed as Bai Yan sank to the ground, devoid of belief, a flicker of satisfaction flickering within me. After what felt like an eternity, the doctor emerged. The liver donor was inherently unhealthy, hence the patient is now experiencing severe postoperative reactions. All indicators are declining. Please prepare yourselves mentally. Upon hearing this, Bai Yan dashed forward. What are you saying? How could my liver donor be unhealthy? The doctor took a step back, seemingly repulsed by Bai Yan. Your liver exhibited mild fatty liver preoperatively, making you an unsuitable candidate for donation. Yet, you remained resolute in your decision to donate, and the patient's condition was critical at that moment. I have conveyed all of this to your guardian. Please, rein in your emotions. After uttering these words, the doctor departed without a backward glance. Bai Yan finally acknowledged my presence, her eyes aflame with emotion, staring blankly at me. Suwei, what on earth is happening? I gazed at Bai Yan's face, contemplating in my heart that everything was finally coming to an end. In your agitated state, the doctor had no choice but to speak with me, yet your insistence on donating your liver left me powerless. My explanation was flawless. Moreover, the hospital surveillance had already documented every detail. It is all your fault. You did this. Your liver was evidently in poor condition. You still sought to harm brother Xue Jing. Xiao Qingmei tackled Bai Yan to the ground, her hands firmly gripping her throat. Bai Yan's parents suddenly appeared from who knows where. You little vixen. Release my daughter. My daughter has already donated her liver. That young man is unfortunate. Let go. I will end you. A chaotic scuffle ensued, the scene descending into utter mayhem. I let out a cold laugh and quietly withdrew from the fray. 2 hours later, I boarded a flight for studying abroad, my belongings in tow. I had long since secured a spot for an overseas exchange program. Everything here had been determined, and naturally, I saw no reason to remain. Upon disembarking the plane, a flurry of messages flooded my phone. It was from the patient group at High City People's Hospital. The young man who received the liver transplant has passed away today. What a pity, I heard he was a top student at H University. Alas, the one who donated the liver truly harmed others, donating with a compromised liver. The donor's situation is quite tragic as well. I heard he incurred significant debts to donate, even losing a spleen in the process, yet the liver he donated was ultimately futile. How lamentable! Is there any hope for survival? The doctors said it is highly unlikely. Now, the parents of the liver donor are practically wishing to kill the other family's daughter. Oh dear, what a misfortune. After silently reading through the group's discussions, I clicked to exit the chat. I also deleted the menu items from my phone's album, those menus meticulously prepared for Bai Yan, the very culprits behind her mild fatty liver. Looking up at the sky, the scenery was indeed splendid. In the days to come, I shall live joyfully. The end of the narrative? Thank you for listening, and I look forward to our next story.